So I'm going to be reading a section from a short story, and it's kind of loosely based on a celebration for Chopin in Poland. It's called The Weight of Sound. The Jaworski family. "Come here, Hans," Mrs. Jaworski said, smoothing the picnic blanket to set up lunch for the two children and her husband. The small child, who could not have been more than 5 years old, ran even further from his parents, chasing the other children. Mrs. Jaworski sighed, rubbing her temples with her fingers to ease the headache. Her husband, Gabriel, rubbed her back affectionately, laughing at his wild son. The other child was too young to even walk, and he sat on the grass, stretching his chubby limbs outward. "Relax, Helena, everyone is just having a good time. Look at that white piano, isn't it beautiful?" She nodded, gazing at the sea of pianos. There were 20 sporadically positioned throughout the entire park. She closed her eyes to listen to the waves of music emanating from these instruments. She opened her eyes and turned her head to look at the bronze statue of Chopin, his face gazing at all the people who had gathered here today to honor his legacy. "It's amazing how many people love Chopin," Helena said. "In a way, it's like Chopin is still alive. His compositions are his children." Gabriel got up and ran towards his son. His movements were graceful, practically matching the rhythm of the music, Helena thought. His strides were long and his arms moved swiftly at his sides, propelling him forward. Though Gabriel had retired from the ballet company years ago, his body was still strong and lean. He threw his son in the air, high above his head, just as the music hit a crescendo. When Helena had first met Gabriel, he was performing on the stage to a composition by Chopin. He seemed to fly across the floor. His slender legs were exposed, the overdeveloped muscles thinly covered with pale flesh. Helena stood up suddenly. The wind picked up, pressing the thin material of her skirt against her legs, outlining them completely, and blowing her blonde locks in all directions. The dozens of pianists hovered over their pianos, scattered all through the field, their bodies harnessed to the momentum of their playing. Each was in their own space, in the music, oblivious to everything around them. She hardly listened to Chopin or classical music these days, but every time she heard Chopin, emotion stirred within her. She believed it was passion, love. A smile erupted on her lips as Gabriel and Hans ran back to her. Justina. From far away, you would not have seen the teenager's thin frame pressed against the ground. Justina turned her head to one side, spreading her arms out so that she looked like the letter T. The cool blades of grass tickled her chin, but she resisted the temptation to move. "Justina, what are you doing?" one of the girls in the group asked. "The vibrations. I think I can feel them, ever so slightly." There was a pause in the music. Justina sat up. Her white cotton dress was dotted with grass stains. A man began talking, his voice booming from the microphone. Justina stretched her frame to see, but the rows of people blocked her view of the speaker. She noticed people turning towards the statue. "The occupying Germans destroyed the original statue in 1940. They wanted to weaken our resolve, the morale. They wanted to decimate everything that made us proud of Poland. But no matter what they burned or destroyed, they couldn't reach what was inside our hearts. The flower may die, but the shadow still remains. Today we celebrate our love for Chopin and his music." Applause and cheering erupted all around Justina. The momentum of music started to build again, reaching a crescendo as the cheering subsided. She stood up, looking all around her. Pianos, dozens of them, in all colors and sizes, covered the ground. The majestic instruments reminded her of ships in the sea. Everyone was playing together harmoniously. Until tonight, Justina never thought much about Chopin or his music. She never played an instrument in her life. Yet now she was sure that she loved Chopin too. "Hey, come on," someone tapped her on the shoulder. A group of boys and girls were running through the crowd. She ran after them, jumping over the picnic baskets, twisting her body to squeeze through the clusters of people. Her lungs burned from the cold night air, but she kept moving, not knowing where or why. The music from the pianos blended together into one harmonious force. Justina could feel the sound enveloping her, wave by wave. She ran faster, pumping her arms by her side, moving at the speed of sound. Thank you.